Welcome back to another investment quarter update video. Today is October the 4th, and we're just gonna jump right into the markets and getting you guys updated on my portfolio, how I've been navigating this last quarter, what I've been doing with my money, and it's been a very exciting time. I have been talking to a lot of different people in, the financial services industry over this last quarter, and particularly people around my age, younger folks, some older folk as well, but primarily young people. And one constant that I've heard throughout this quarter is that this has been one of the craziest times of my lifetime, but even some older people feel the same way in terms of the delicacy of investments and just the global macroeconomy at this time. I'm just going to say that it's been a very exciting quarter for people like me. A young investor. One of the strengths of being young is that you don't have as much to lose, right? Like, you are able to be high risk. You're able to take on that risk and be a little bit more, even-minded about taking on that risk. Maybe some might say not as even-minded, depending on who you ask and their opinion. But market volatility, you're able to handle uncertainty a lot better because the arc of your investment horizon is much longer. So obviously the goal is to never lose money, right? You never want to lose money. And that's what I have been doing this last quarter, positioning myself to not lose money. And I'm actually going to read off notes this time because so much has been happening. I don't want to forget anything. And so I broke this down into the three different markets. Those of you who know, I'm primarily a crypto investor, but then I also do some stock investing as well. I'm definitely much more weighted towards crypto analysts, but I also very much like equities, and I'm continuing to learn, right? And that's been one thing that I've been doing a lot this quarter, is learning, watching a lot of Real Vision, continuing to read from investors that I look up to, like Warren Buffett, Raoul Pal, just listening to a lot of different people. And so of the capital that I've deployed this quarter, 65% has gone to crypto. And in reflecting on this quarter, I would say that part of this occurrence might have been emotionally driven, right? I talk about investing as being a game of chess, and it's about moving the pieces at the right time, right? Earlier this quarter, at the beginning of the summer, I called what I believed was the suckers rally of crypto. And about a week ago or so, Bitcoin fell about 15%. I think it's hovering around $8,100 today, down from the yearly highs of 14,000. And it was during the early parts of this summer, right around April 1st, is when kind of this hype cycle took off. And I made a video at that time basically saying that I believe that we were in the midst of the suckers rally, which is a part in market psychology. You go watch that video and see what I'm talking about there. But I think that largely that prediction played out. And Bitcoin is around $8,100 right now. I believe that between now and the end of November, it's likely we'll see another 15% drop, 10 to 15%, and I assign that about a 45% probability. Or maybe we'll just channel from here, or drop a little bit more and then channel. We'll see what happens, but in reflecting on the money I've put in, I think it's possible that I got taken away in my emotions. And I think I would have liked to have probably put a little bit more 50-50 in terms of my allocation of money, but it just so happened that I put a lot of money into crypto. And I think this is because the risk-reward ratio for Decred for me was just so asymmetric that I felt that a lot of the fresh money I wanted to put in, even though I knew there was a risk of Decred dropping in price, which it has subsequently, I felt comfortable knowing that if a breakout were to occur, that I didn't want to live with that regret. And so I put a lot of money into Decred, continue to accumulate Bitcoin. You know, I'll always do that every day, every week of every year, you know, between now and basically my death, I'm sure of it. Yep, so I've been continuing to accumulate Bitcoin. What's really interesting, both these projects have well, let's focus on Decred, right? This last quarter, they have not only implemented their privacy features, which are command line only right now, but they are, you know, continue to develop that feature. They also implemented a decentralized exchange, and so this is non-custodial atomic swap exchange on the Lightning Network, and that is just very, very bullish for Decred. Yeah, so very happy with the growth in that ecosystem. I also started accumulating 2 utility tokens that I'm not going to talk about right now. If you go back and watch some of my videos, you might be able to guess what these are. But these 2 projects have also continued to grow in their development. And maybe in the future I'll make videos about them, but right now I'm not going to do that. But I have begun to accumulate 2 different tokens that are utility tokens, and also 2 app tokens. So I know I've made videos before about Bitcoin majoritarianism. I've talked about, you know, getting lost in shitcoinery, which has happened to me in the past. But as I've continued to be in this space, I do believe that I don't think that essentially, I don't buy into entirely the Bitcoin maximalist ideology. I think that I am what I deem myself a Bitcoin majoritarianism. I do think that the store of value and the money use case is the most critical and useful use case for blockchains and sort of this entire nascent industry. But I do think there's other things that are interesting. And so the 2 app tokens that I decided to buy into are in the gaming sector. And the reason that I decided to do this was largely because the altcoin space has just been getting destroyed, right? And so these tokens are at some of their historic lows in terms of their Bitcoin rate, costs. So their cost in Bitcoin, not in US dollars. They're at some of their all-time lows. And you want to stay ahead of people, right? Whenever you're thinking about investing, you have to be contrarian often, all the time. If you want to make money, you have to be contrarian, and you want to stay steps ahead of people. And so I felt very comfortable with the price of these 2 app tokens, and it's very much against my investment ideology / philosophy to invest in these type of tokens, because I see these investments very much I see them more as venture capital than anything, because although the entirety of the crypto space is technically economic speculation, I see these 2 tokens as being, they're built on top of the Ethereum blockchain. Both of them are being built currently on top of Ethereum. And I just view the projects as being, they're video games, number one. So it's more like venture capital investing, very early stage, seed stage or Series A stage investing, which I still feel comfortable doing this. It was not a lot of money, but I will probably continue to dollar cost average into these projects because I think they've been growing and doing really good things. And I'll make videos. I've made a video about one of them in the past. One of them is Funfair. So, and actually, if you go and watch my videos, you could probably figure out the other one is Decentraland. So I'll just go ahead and call them out. Yeah, so moving on to stocks, right? This video is getting long, but it's end of the quarter, so. And I keep having to turn on, I keep messing with the pad, or else the computer is gonna go dark screen, then you won't be able to see me. So that's why you keep seeing me reach in front. So in the stock market, those of you who know that I have been an investor in Snapchat. Snapchat was one of my earliest investments, starting back in 2017. I've made a lot of money off of Snapchat. I actually forgot to pull up my my numbers. I meant to write these down before starting this video, but I will go ahead and tell you guys. This quarter, I did end up selling a position selling off some of my Snapchat. I felt very comfortable doing this. I had been dollar cost averaging since $15 all the way down to like $4.95 at one point I've been buying. I have a lot of Snapchat. It is my largest holding. And in the middle of this quarter, Snapchat popped to $18 and I sold some. I was at, I believe off the top of my head, it was like 69%, in terms of profit, and I decided to take some money off the table. Remember guys, like with investing, you haven't actually done anything until you've sold, right? Like you haven't actually, until that point, it's just money made on paper. And I felt that Snapchat was very overbought. And so I sold some at $18 and I actually used that money to invest into Decred. So I didn't just like walk away with it. I decided to like rebalance my portfolio really. And subsequently, Snapchat today is at like $14.50. So that was a smart decision to do at that time when it rallied. And I've continued to buy Snapchat at $15 and below because that was the price point that I started buying at. And I still believe in the company. So very happy about that. I also sold off my SunPower investment. I'll tell you guys a little of my rationale. I used to work for a solar company back in 2017, and I started investing in SunPower. Essentially, this was a company that I was no longer willing to like really keep up with, and I felt like I didn't have a good grasp of the industry anymore because that industry is so fast moving and like fast evolving. And I was a salesman whenever I was buying. I used to invest in like Enphase, Sunrun, and SunPower. I sold off my Enphase and Sunrun a long ass time ago. But SunPower I held on to, and SunPower was up 59% for me. And I decided that because I was unwilling to like keep up with the investment, I just need to sell it off. And that is what I did. Felt very happy doing that. Used that money to buy some more stocks, equities that I was investing in. One of those being Square, and then the other one, this will be the first time I talk about this company by name, was Continental Resources. I made a video, I don't remember what video it was, where I talked about I had started buying into a new company. I think it might have been last quarter's investment video. I wasn't ready to talk about it at that time because I was buying it. So I'm ready to talk about it now. I've been very happy. This has been the main company I've been dollar cost averaging into over this last quarter. Very excited about Continental Resources. For those of you who don't know, Continental is an oil exploration company based out of Oklahoma City. A company that I'm very familiar with in terms of just my locale. I live in Oklahoma City. So yes, they are ticker CLR, and I will make a video in the very near future, in the next 3 months, talking about Continental Resources in more depth and sort of my investment thesis around this company. One other thing I started doing, right, is I started buying some commodities indexes, very small, and other commodities and commodity companies. Just like I realized that besides oil, that I was very undiversified in this regard. Snapchat is a tech company. Square is a tech company. One of the other companies I invest in and haven't talked about yet is a video gaming company. Yes, and so essentially, I've been listening to a lot of Jim Rogers, who, those of you who don't know, he runs Rogers International. He's a very renowned investor. And I just decided that it was time for me to start getting into commodities just a little bit, particularly in agriculture. I think that I've been working a lot more on my portfolio theory and overall balance within my portfolio, right? That's something that I've been thinking about as I'm starting to move into my 30s, I'm 26 right now, so as I start to move out of my early 20s, I need to start thinking about my portfolio in a lot more holistic perspective, right? I'm obviously very heavy in crypto. My portfolio is largely crypto related at this time, and will continue to be that for the foreseeable future. But I do want to start thinking about rounding out my portfolio, right? So I started doing that. And there's been some interesting developments this last quarter as it relates to the Federal Reserve. In particular, the Fed has cut rates 2 times this last quarter by 25 basis points each time. This was largely predicted by a lot of people. Raoul Pal this last quarter came out with an entire series about why he believes we are in a recession, what economic indicators, this is on Real Vision, what economic indicators are suggesting that this market is weak right now. And it was a very interesting series. He brought on, both people from both sides of the conversation to debate this topic. And I've kind of walked away convinced that if we're not already in a recession, we're definitely pushing on a string, as Ray Dalio would say. I did a book review about his book, Big Debt Crises. You guys should go check that out. And one thing in particular that he talks about in sort of the archetype of big debt crises is that around the 6th inning, let's say, or 7th inning of big debt crises, you get to a point where basically the Federal Reserve is pushing on a string. And this involves, using one of the 3 methods of stimulation that they have, which is austerity, the savings of money, increasing the interest rate, or quantitative easing, or lowering or increasing the interest rate, manipulating the interest rate, or printing money, right? Those are the 3 choices that the government has. And so he says that around the 7th inning, essentially, unemployment rates are at historic lows. This is part of the archetype. And today, the job market, or the household survey, was released by the Bureau of Economic Activity, which is essentially the monthly jobs report, if you will. And unemployment rates went down by 0.2% to historic lows of 3.5%. And I just thought about Ray Dalio's archetype, and it very much fit into the narrative that we are in a, if not in a recession, just very close to it, and that essentially the economy is in very balanced, how do I say, just in a very I can't think of the word right now, but we just need to be very careful. And I also read on Barron's today that the futures market has a probability of 76.4% that at the end of this month, the Fed will lower rates again. And so it looks like they're going to continue to drive down rates across the world, especially in Europe. They've already been working with negative interest rates, and things are just very interesting, guys. This video is getting very long as it is. One last thing I definitely need to talk about is the repo market, which, for those of you unfamiliar, the repo market is essentially the overnight lending market of interbank lending. And the Fed has interjected itself into this market because interest rates got out of whack. Essentially, banks were giving out overnight loans to other banks at a rate of 10%, which is wild. Which it shows just inherent distrust between the banks, and it makes you wonder, why do they distrust each other? Maybe they know something we do not know, is what is likely the case, or they all know something together. And the Fed has essentially stepped in and started lending money out in this market. Last time I checked, it was at least 1/3 of $1 trillion had been printed, had been added to the Fed's balance sheets, and the Fed has said that they will continue to put money into this market throughout the month of October. And so this is central banking. This is what central banking is. And as an Austrian, as a Bitcoiner, it's just incredibly interesting to watch, and I'm not going to go too far into that, but essentially this is what happens when you allow the printing press to be handled by a central entity, right? And this is what Bitcoiners want to move away from. We don't believe that this is a natural or a morally good state for markets to exist in. And I'm going to end this video there. That is my end of third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter market update. And I'm very, very excited to see where things go throughout the rest of this year. Fourth quarter is always one of my favorites. Things just always get wild towards Thanksgiving in December, and I can't wait to see what happens, and I will keep you guys updated. Look forward to making a video about Continental Resources coming up. Please, if you watch my channel and you're interested in investing, like, you're not gonna wanna miss out on that. And hopefully I also can start making some more videos about just like crypto in general. I am president of the Crypto Asset Club at Oklahoma City University. We have been having meetings, trying to grow that club here in the Oklahoma area. And so I hope to share some content from that as well with you guys. Thank you guys for watching. This has gone on very long. If you made it this far, very much appreciate you. Please like the video and comment below. I love hearing from you guys. I love learning from you guys. I love engaging with you guys. So thank you, and see you in the next video.